Hey friends, welcome back to Big Nate's Whiskey Lounge. I am Nate. Got another review for you today. This is going to be the main three from a core lineup. I did a review of some of their distillate back, I believe it was December, might have been early January. Go check that out. But this is going to be Redwood Empire. The videos I did before was their Bottled and Bond Bourbon and Rye, the Grizzly Beast and Rocket Top that came out towards the end of 2021. So you can go check those videos out. But this is going to be kind of their core range, what you can find at pretty much all times. I have the store that I bought the Bottled and Bond of their own distillate from was really the only store in my area I can find it at. But these I can find pretty much all the time. Specifically, we're going to do first the Pipe Dream, which is bourbon whiskey. Now it could say straight on it because it does say on it that it's aged at least 4 years. So it really should say straight. That's maybe, I don't know, maybe when they applied for the TTB license or whatever, it wasn't going to be, and then it just was. So this is going to be bourbon. This is distilled in California, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee, so possibly some of their own distillate, MGP, maybe Barton, and maybe Dickel, maybe. So this is their bourbon. Then we're going to do their rye. This also, same thing with the straight. It says it's aged at least 4 years, so it really could be straight. Should say it. This is going to be Emerald Giant, the rye. And this comes from California, Indiana, so it's probably their own distillate and some MGP. And then we have Lost Monarch, which is a blend of straight whiskeys. And this is distilled, you know what, it does not say. Probably because it's a blend. They don't have to say it. I'm not as up to date on those laws. Aged at least 3 years, but this is a bouryre. So let's give these a pour real quick. Pipe Dream you could pretty much find everywhere in my area. Everywhere has it. Emerald Giant is starting to be pretty much everywhere as well. Lost Monarch, when I go hunting, I hunt between about 8 to 10 stores. And it's really only in one or two that I can find it in consistently. But they're all priced about the same. They're $35 bottles. Sometimes I can get them for $33. Sometimes they're $37. So it's a $35 bottle. And these are an absolute steal. I brought them into, I'll show you this bottle in particular in a second. You can tell Pipe Dream. This is my second bottle of Pipe Dream. But then there's quite a bit of the Emerald Giant, but then you can see how low I am on the Lost Monarch. Guys in my cigar lounge, we love this bottle. It was really cool to introduce it to them, and then them, like, this is what we go to. This goes through like crazy. Everybody's got their own bottle now, and then I take it in probably once every couple of months. Although next time I take it in, it's going to be drained. So I might do that Saturday so that it's gone and I'll buy a new bottle. Let's start with the Pipe Dream. This is bourbon whiskey. Pretty decent classic bourbon notes on it. I'm getting a little bit of caramel, a little bit of cherry. I'm getting banana too, a little bit. Kind of dusty corn. I'm getting also kind of a stone fruitiness, maybe not really stone fruity, maybe a raisin. Well, I guess the stone fruit version. Well, that's a grape. Not really stone fruit. Pruny, maybe that's where I'm going pruny, maybe plummish. Got a really good nose, a little bit more perfumey than it is. Kind of like if a perfume you're fruity, so there's fruitiness and floralness in it, kind of perfuminess, but it's more like a fruity perfume, so it's more heavy on the more of a perfumey. Decent color on it, no complaints there. I'm gonna give it a second taste before I start. It's good, solid. It's a little basic. I'm glad that it's only like a $35 bottle. Quite frankly, I couldn't see paying more than $40 for it. It's good. It's solid. You should have that in your collection. But you'll see that once I get to the Lost Monarch, you'll see how much difference of it is. And obviously, in my opinion, these are going to be a blend of these two. This is a blend of these, potentially. At least speculation would indicate to that. But that's really good. It's not a super, super long finish. There's like a burnt, sugary finish. A little bit kind of like a cough syrupiness that sticks around at the end. And that's what's on the that's on the tongue. And as far as proof points go, 90, I believe these are all 90. 90, 90. 90, yeah, these are all 90 proof, 45% ABV. So they're all at a standard typical entry level proof. It's good. I like it. Again, like I said, I can find this everywhere, and it's always consistently at that price. The Pipe Dream, Emerald Giant, the rye is starting to be almost everywhere. It's more consistent. Let me get a little water, and then I'll go to the... Emerald Giant is pretty much everywhere too. Pipe Dream is the one where it's really only like 2 or 3 places that I can find it. Okay. Man, I like that nose so much more. The nose on this rye is just more interesting than the Emerald Giant's nose is just a little bit more interesting than the Pipe Dream. What's really cool is the really cool thing about Emerald Giant of Redwood Empire is just the artwork. These are bottles that attract you. It's weird because if you look at them from the back and they kind of look a little boring. I know that's a little whited out. There's really not much there. It's just some coloring. It's just some lettering, and it's just white with some lettering. But you got kind of like a giant with some trees growing on him. You got the Emerald Giant, then you got whatever this pipe is, some dude with like a big bursting tree thing out of him. It's really cool. I got like a cakey note on this, kind of like a breadiness, but like a cake, like the texture of a cake, but rye, like rye bread if it were made, maybe like a fresh loaf of rye bread. Man, that nose is ridiculous. Let me just compare the... there's just more, and maybe it's just because the rye is just more, like corn can be a little bit more subtle, more subdued, sweeter, so sometimes it disappears a little bit. But on the nose, this just jumps out of the glass with just fantastic rye spice. Christmassy. This is what I want a rye to be when it comes to nose. Doing the same thing with the Pipe Dream. I'm going to give it a second taste before I want to give a note or a statement, but I'm not going to, I'll do the same thing. It is very interesting. There's like a watery thinness to it a little bit. That could be because it's 90 proof. I don't necessarily think I drink overly high rye all the time. I mean, the last rye I had was this one here, the Knob Creek Single Barrel. But that was Saturday, and today's Tuesday. Yeah, I don't necessarily think I drink overly high proof rye all the time, but for some reason this is just a little thin. I really like it. I do like it. And I'll say this: if a nose is really fantastic to me, even if the juice is a little disappointing, I'm still going to have an overall enjoyable experience. There's a syrupiness to it as well, which is nice. Not necessarily like pancake syrup, which you get sometimes on some bourbons and things like that. This was a little too thin to be syrupy, even though it's the same proof. This is just a little bit more syrupy to it. There's actually not a ton of legs on it, but it's fruity on the taste. So I've had quite a bit of MGP rye, which I'm assuming is what's blended in this because California and Indiana. So I don't know the percentages of how much is which, but whatever, it must be their own stuff. Might be a little more dominant. Definitely getting rye spice on it. Definitely getting like a breadiness. Maybe kind of like a shortbread cookie almost. That's really good. Of the two, the Emerald Giant, in my opinion, is better than Pipe Dream. And that just could be because there are times that I'm in right now, I'm just thinking, I'm just kind of liking the rye a little bit more. But let's get this going. This is the Lost Monarch. Oh, let's palate cleanse just a bit. More subtle on the nose. The nose is pretty subtle. It's the subtlest of the three. So I just went back to the Pipe Dream to compare the two because I already said that the Emerald Giant is like a bursting nose. So I compared it to so I was thinking like, it's definitely more subtle. The Lost Monarch on the nose is more subtle than the Emerald Giant. So I was just checking to see if it was more or less than the Pipe Dream. It is more, or the Pipe Dream has more of a nose than the Lost Monarch does. But this is kind of a combination of the two. There's some rye, a little bit of cherry, a little bit of burnt caramel, a little bit of oakiness. There's a lot of rye on the taste. So I know it's a bouryre. They're calling it a blend of straight whiskeys. So don't know what percentage of rye versus bourbon is in the blend. But the rye dominates in a really good way. It is really, really good. It's sweet. So there's ryeness, but it's sweet like a bourbon. My bottles are about to fall over and scare the crap out of me. That's really, really, really good. It is the best of the three. So with a rye, if you don't like rye, you are not going to like this because this is pretty much MGP rye and some of their own juice. I don't know the percentages. You know what? I'm going to check it out. So hold please. The mash bill is, I'm going to make an assumption that the California juice that is in Emerald Giant is MGP plus their own stuff, and I'm going to assume that it's this. This is the Rocket Top Bottle and Bond Bourbon that is their own distillate, and it's 87% rye, 7 barley, 6 corn, or 6 wheat. So because of that, that would make sense that rye is very dominant on this because of how high rye content. So we're talking about a bourbon where it's a secondary grain is going to be rye on this. And then we have a rye itself, which is speculating 95.5 plus 87 rye, 7 barley, 6 wheat. Then we go to the bouryre, which is this plus that. It's just going to be dominated by rye. And I'm okay with that. I like rye. I like rye a lot. But it's more perfumey on the nose than the other two. So this is pretty much rye dominant, right in your face. And this is more of a fruity perfume. And this is more subtle, not as much on the nose, and a little bit more in the direction of the Pipe Dream with the kind of a perfuminess, but more fruity than the Pipe Dream. That's good stuff. That's a good sipping whiskey. Fantastic. Again, my area, these are $35 bottles. I can pretty much get Pipe Dream anywhere, anytime. Emerald Giant, pretty much anywhere, anytime. And this select stores, but those stores have it all the time. It's like one or two. Luckily, the one store I'm thinking of, I don't shop there all the time because they're not a big fan of their prices. However, they do price Redwood Empire fairly. They're right down. They're literally in almost the same plaza that the cigar lounge I hang out at is, so I can grab this pretty much anytime. We actually have their phone number on speed dial, so we pick up the phone, press 2, and they'll deliver because they're literally a 30-second walk away. So that's going to do it for Redwood Empire. Their standard releases: Pipe Dream Bourbon, Emerald Giant Rye, Lost Monarch Bouryre. There's some fun artwork on there, a little bit of stories on the back. I highly recommend you look into these. And that's going to do it for the Redwood Empire. Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate you guys.